Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day.
Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Brett. How you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. And what would you like to talk about today? Do you have something on your mind?
I do. I would like to talk about boundaries.
Okay. In what way? Tell me more.
So we've talked about balance, and we talked about a little bit about work-life balance and those sorts of things. It's important sometimes, and I know it's so bad. So when we talk about balance, one of the things that happens, or one of the things that's happened here in Australia anyway, is the government has actually introduced legislation creating a boundary between work and personal life, in that employers are not allowed to have 24-hour access to employees anymore. So there's a boundary, a legislated boundary now between work life and home life. Now, that's one example of a boundary. And obviously that legislation was required because employers were taking advantage and taking time away from employees' family time. But when we talk about boundaries, and I use that as an example, and I think it's an important one, but when we talk about boundaries, it's important to have our own boundaries and enforce those personal boundaries in our personal lives with other people. And it's okay to say no sometimes. Or I think one of the problems in some relationships is we lose ourselves and our sense of identity because we don't enforce our boundaries. And so I thought it's something that we've talked a little bit about before. We mentioned it in a previous episode. And I thought, hey, this could be something really important for people to understand what boundaries are, why they are important, and how we can do it, enforce our personal boundaries in a safe way.
Do we have to know what our boundaries are first, though, before we can enforce them? Because it's interesting because I'm a mum coach, and so I talk to parents about boundaries all the time. It's so important for kids. It actually gives them safety.
Mhm.
And so I got a client at the minute, and it's about screen time. And this is a really common one. And what happens is the parent is always nagging the child, get off your screen, get off, you've had too long, blah, blah, blah. And I say, you need to be clear about what the rules are here. What are your boundaries around it? Because otherwise, and I don't just mean for the sake of your child, because you're always going, no, you need to be off it. It's in your head. It's nagging at you all the time. It almost becomes a trigger because you're seeing them on their phone again. So for me, it's about, you need to know it first. You can't just start throwing out boundaries, and maybe you don't know it precisely, but start somewhere. So this is one of the problems, and I'm assuming this is going to be a good analogy, but it's one of the problems parents have. So what are your boundaries with regards to what you're wanting your child to have with regards to their device? Is it once a day? Is it once a week? How many hours is it? Is there time periods? So back to my question, because I rambled on there, do we need to know our boundaries first?
I'm going to say kind of yes, but kind of no. And the reason I say it like that is because we don't need to really know what the boundary as such is, but we need to know what's important to us and have an understanding of why that's important to us. When we know what's important and somebody infringes on that thing that is important to us, then that is where we need to establish those boundaries. So if I go back to work, and veterans are terrible at this because military life is, so there's a saying when I was in the army, if army wanted you to have a family, they would have issued you with one. And so the family life very much comes second to military life and military needs, which there's a certain purpose for, and I understand that. But because of that, that training, that mindset that exists in defense, a lot of veterans are very bad at prioritizing their families because it's all about work and they have to do work and work. And that creates problems
Yeah.
in obviously the work-life balance, but the family life suffers because they're so focused on work and the work needs come first because that's what they've been trained. So I don't think we need to know what the boundary is. We can discover that over time. I think we need to figure out what's important to us and then start learning to say no to the things that infringe upon that.
That's a really, really good point. So we need to start with what's important to us. And I don't know if everybody knows that. And I say that because I remember a time before I was a life coach where I didn't have a clue. So everybody was always stepping over my boundaries because I didn't have any boundaries because I didn't realize what was important to me. Although one way to know what's important to you is when you get annoyed with someone because of something they did, because that's a big clue that they just stepped over one of your boundaries, something that's important to you.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's a very clear way to identify. If you're unhappy with the situation, it's because somebody's crossed a boundary. Um, you know, don't get me wrong, some people just get upset over everything all the time. They're very easily upset. But when it's personal, for me, for example, when I get upset, I've learned over time, and I'm still not perfect. We keep saying these things take time. Um, I try to take a step back and think about, why did I get upset over this? Why is this important to me? And when I stop to think and start to analyze why it's important, I start to realize where my boundaries are. And again, it takes time. And for everyone out there that's listening, forgive yourself. Again, be gentle and kind to yourself. It does take time. You're not going to figure all this out. If you're a people pleaser, and you're always saying yes to everybody, but you're not happy in your life because you've lost yourself for whatever reason, then this is going to be why you let other people walk all over your boundaries, as Vanessa said. And of course, you're not going to be happy.
Can I come back to those poor people that you cast aside that you said some people get upset over everything or all the time? And I'll tell you, there's more to it. So if you're one of those people, okay, and you're not alone, because there's many of those people, you actually need to go a little bit deeper than this, in my view. So it's not what's important, someone just stepped over a boundary. It's actually deeper than that. It's about your core needs that are being neglected, and not just neglected by everybody else, but probably neglected by you too. And I'm talking about things like belonging and connection and love. So if you're getting upset over lots of little things all the time, oops, I said little. I don't mean little. They are small if you stop and step back, but they're actually an indicator of something way, way bigger. So if you're just upset occasionally, alert, someone stepped over your boundary. If it's happening a lot, it's deeper than boundaries. It's real human needs. And this is science. This is real researched, so we're not just making this up. This is stuff that they have spent, gosh, probably so much time and money on understanding how us humans work. So this is important. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I didn't mean to dismiss those people before. Being on the receiving end of it, it just seems like that person's grumpy all the time. But as you say, that person that is grumpy all the time, there's something else going on there. It is at a much, as you say, deeper level. And if you are that person that seems to be upset all the time, reach out to someone who can help you. Uh, Reach out and ask questions, or start that internal, what am I missing in my life? What would make me happy? And if you know somebody that is that person, try to, again, take that little bit of extra time and think, well, why are they this way? And perhaps exercise a little bit of kindness, a little bit of generosity, that it's not about you. It is actually about them. And, there's something missing in their life. And sometimes it can just be reaching out and asking, questions like, are you okay? Or, um, I'm really sorry this has happened to you. Just a basic apology. And it might not necessarily be well received, but it might be received well overall, if that makes sense. So again, I think our boundaries, taking us back to where we started, our boundaries are really important to us. And when people cross those boundaries, it is personal, and it's okay for it to be personal. But how do we, Vanessa, manage this?
It is personal, or it feels it, and what that means is there's an emotion in you. And this is where we start to get to the issue. And then we become emotional and then we react. Okay. And then it starts to become personal. But the person didn't mean to do it. Actually, I'll tell you a story because this was so eye opening for me. So, this was going back many years when I really didn't know very much. And my son, he was quite young, he was always kind of making me watch TV with him. That sounds really kind of pathetic almost, but honestly, he was so insistent. And, I had other things I wanted to do. And also, I didn't want to watch the programs he wanted. And I was a people pleaser, I admit it. So I kept doing it because, as a mum and mum guilt, I should give time to my children. And all he was asking was to sit beside him while he watched his program. And so I would do it, but I would feel I was not happy with this. And it was because he'd stepped over a boundary, like autonomy, me doing what I wanted to do. But here's the lesson. Eventually, when I started learning about me and life coaching, I actually brought it up to him. And his answer was so simple. I was like absolutely kicking myself because he just said, I just assumed if you didn't want to do it, you would say no. I'm like, oh my God, you mean all that time I had a choice? I did not know I had a choice. And it was so simple. And I always remember that now. He's asking, and it was my choice to say no. Yes, he was insistent. And all those times when I've done things I didn't want to do. And I think now all those people I've done things for, and I probably did have a choice. I could have just said no. And they go, okay. And they go and ask the next person. I'm not that special. It doesn't have to be me. So, oh my gosh, if anyone can learn anything, please learn something from that because that wasted a lot of years.
I think the message there is it's actually okay to say no if it crosses your boundary or when it crosses your boundary. And look, it doesn't even have to be dependent on crossing your boundary. If we start going down the people pleasing path, it's okay to say no in all aspects of your life where you need to, or even if you just don't want to.
Well, can I share another story?
Yeah, sure.
Because talking of people pleaser, I have a client or had a client, and she got in such a state. She was going to have to do this big drive across Australia to take her mum somewhere, and she was exhausted. And I mean, truly, properly, utterly exhausted. Like it was dangerous. And I don't know how long we took on the phone because I was saying to her, in a long version, I was trying to say no because you can't do this. This could kill you. And she just, honestly, she couldn't bring herself to do it. She was scared. Okay, so it's real. This stuff's real. You can be like in such an anxious state about saying no that you don't do it. So it's not easy. All right, it's not just say no. Long story short, she eventually realized she had to say no, and she got off the phone. She went to her mum, and in a sentence, she said no, and she messaged me back and said, "It's okay." I'm like, oh my gosh, you've just spent hours, we've just spent ages on the phone, and you said no and it was okay. Like, wow.
But I'm sure also for her, that would have been an absolute relief, not just in that instance, but knowing that she has the ability to say no now in the future when again she can't. It's so empowering for people. And I get it. It's not always easy. Uh, Veterans, again, we're so conditioned to just doing it, to shut up and get the job done, that saying no, whether it's at home in our personal lives or in our work life, we're just not used to that. And mums with children, again, you've got to set those boundaries. Sometimes put a lock on the toilet door and and lock the thing when you go in there, because I know we heard
That doesn't work. I mean, if we're going to talk about the toilet thing again, we can bring it into most of the podcasts if we want. Oh my goodness, the lock doesn't work. I get your point though.
I know they'll sit there and they'll knock on the door, "Mum." So, um, it can be empowering, it can be a little bit relief, but I get it. It can be absolutely terrifying
Yeah.
the first couple of times you need or want to do it. But I think it's an important skill that we need to learn. If it's not serving us, and I know people, there's decision-making trees or decision-making philosophies out there. Is it good for me? Is it good for you? Is it good for the environment? Those sorts of things. And they work through that sort of process. If it's not going to serve me in any way, then I'm going to say no, because I've got more important things that are important to me personally. Me helping you sometimes might be important to me personally. And it's not about what I get out of it necessarily. Or my cousin's oldest son, he's, I think about 18 now. He is on the spectrum. And the way he relates to everybody, the way he relates to the world, and he was telling me this earlier in the year, is everything for him is transactional. It's the way he understands the world, including his friendships. And so all his decision making is based around, if I do this for you, what do I get in return? And he's figured out that friendship has value. And so if you're asking him to do something and there's no value in it for him, if it doesn't promote the relationship or the friendship, or it doesn't provide a return for him, then he will say no. And he has, because of where he is on the spectrum, he's got no problem saying no at all if he doesn't see value in it. And so I think that's really cool. And it's kind of empowering for him to understand that. Um, but I think we also, other people can take that lesson away as well. That's why I bring it up, is because if we are saying yes to something, or if we're allowing a pattern of behavior to develop, or whatever the case may be, that is disempowering us or takes away our value or has a negative net return in value, I suppose, then it's probably something that we should be saying no to.
I think on the empowering side, I want to talk about how I see it is you showing respect for yourself and your needs. Because as a former people pleaser, I had no respect for anything I wanted. And so I was always, and I know most, a lot of mums are like this, you're bottom of the pile, but I allowed that. And that's childhood upbringing and all of that. And so it was the feeling of the saying no was not about the no, it was actually saying, I'm important and what I want's important. And I caught myself literally just the other day doing it. And I was getting a little bit, and then I was like, oh, because you're not actually speaking up and going, actually, no, I want or I need this right now. So it's such a big picture. And look, it is scary because my client I was talking about is a lifelong pattern of saying yes to your mum. So, it's definitely hard. And do talk to people about it or come to us, because sometimes we can see things, or other people outside of you can see things you can't see yourself. But be guided by that feeling. Like if there's that feeling of kind of like, that's something, okay? That's important. That's not something to ignore.
You're absolutely right. It's not something to ignore. We need to take notice of why we're getting upset. Why does this upset me? And why am I doing this? Why am I responding, or why do I feel this way about it? Um, and I don't think it's just us. I think it's important in our relationships as well. If our partner is getting upset, or if our whoever it is getting upset about something, then obviously there's a boundary there, or there's a deeper issue. It's not just about whatever that argument is about. I'm going to throw this out there, and I can get in trouble for this later. We had an argument the other night about a pizza base. our son wanted to eat the pizza base because I told him yes, and I didn't know where it went. My wife had put it in the freezer. When he went and asked her about it, she got all upset because it's our food. He earns his own money. He can buy his own pizza base. I thought the thing was open, so it should just be eaten. And so I was trying to understand why there was a big issue about a pizza base that you put toppings on and put it in the oven. And when I brought it up, all I wanted to know was, why is this important to you? And it's about asking those questions. Why is this important to you? Why are we having this conversation right now in this context? And then when I brought it up yesterday, actually, I was told, yeah, that was really silly, wasn't it? And I said, no, it's not, because obviously it upset you. And I was just trying to understand the reason why this was important to you. Not, the pizza base itself is not an issue. I just wanted to understand why it's important. So yeah, we need to think about our partners too and our relationships. And when they are upset, why are they upset over this? What is it about this is important to them?
It's so, so important. Why is this important to you? And the next step, because I'm one for kind of needs-based communication. I do relationship coaching, and we always start from, you need to ask yourself first, yeah, why is this important to me? And once you've got that, then you can convey that to the other person. That often what happens is we haven't asked it and we don't convey it. And then it just becomes, like you said, this big issue about a pizza base. Okay. It's never about the thing. We all know that. But what we don't yet understand, in a global sense, is what it is about. So we know it's never about the pizza, but I want to help people. And your question is the one for people to start to ask themselves, what makes this important to me? The
Mm.
whole thing around this picture right now, that's, I've got an emotion inside, whether it's just a mild irritability. What makes this important?
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand the emotions that it brings up as well. Sometimes, because we all have different needs, and it's not just about the boundaries. The boundary is when our need or a certain value or belief is being infringed upon. And I think, we can talk about values and beliefs another time. And needs, maybe that's another thing we can talk about another day as well, because it keeps coming up. But all of these things are complementary. They're not standalone. And this is where we need to have that broader understanding of why this is important. And it's not just about setting the boundary and being able to say no. It's, and again, you asked the question before, do we need to know what our boundaries are? And I said, well, kind of yes and kind of no. Our boundaries are the things, no, the boundary is the line where our personal needs, the things that are important to us, are being stepped on or over, or whatever the case may be. And so we need to know what's important before we can really figure out where the boundary is. And where it's okay to let people come in or cross that boundary a little bit on occasion, when it suits us. But when it happens all the time, that's when it becomes a problem and we become unhappy.
I'm glad you said that, because I was exactly going to lead on to, it's not that you have to be rigid with this boundary. Okay. We still can make compromises. And again, a topic for another day, because I will talk about how you make a compromise without giving up on what you want and what you need. But we're just saying, be aware of where your boundary is. And you can say no. We're not saying start now being really rigid and like no to everybody. Because a lot of it is about how you convey it, but it's knowing what your boundary is, knowing that you can say no if you need to. And by asking yourself what's important about it, you're assessing that. Okay, this is a fluid thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's not and there's no one size fits all. It is fluid. And it's, tomorrow it might be okay, but today it's not.
Yeah.
And so we need to, exercise that, not caution, discretion. I'll use that word, the discretion on when it's okay, when I'm okay with crossing or allowing people to cross my boundary.
Well, I think that's about then having autonomy. But I feel we should end and wrap up and sort of help people maybe Like, I'd love everybody to get at least 2 things to take away, and maybe we can suggest 2 things that people might take away from today's conversation. Do you have a suggestion?
So I've got 2 in my head, and I don't want to steal one of yours potentially. So I would say the first thing is just asking ourselves from a personal perspective, why am I getting upset over this? Or in a relationship perspective, why is this important to you?
Yeah. And so why is it important to you? So being aware of your boundaries, why is it important to you? And I think I'll add to that, um, still being flexible, still having fluidity about it, because we don't want rigidity, but it's about creating autonomy and choice. That's probably too many things now, but there we go. That's what I got from today.
It is, and I'm really tempted to throw in one more.
I go for it. And then we'll end before we carry on.
Absolutely. I'm going to say for everybody, it's okay to say no.
Oh, that's a lovely way to end. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, you're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out at once. What part of today's conversation stood out for you?
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today helped, share it with someone else who might need it too.
And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment, message us, or join the conversation.
We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and just enough courage to get through whatever's next.
See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.